Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think just judging by who I see in the room, I think I know about 80% of you. Yeah, it's like ex-colleagues, staff members, etc. So I'm going to take this as a training opportunity. Yeah, I don't get to see you all. No, I'm joking. But anyway, today we're talking about the future of hospitality, and also a little bit more on the esoteric side is the future of humanity. Yeah, because I think ultimately everything is going to be linked in a way. And thus, my talk today is about high tech and high touch. The first thing I have to say, and I've said it many, many times before, is that man's greatest fear is death. Man's second greatest fear is public speaking. And man's third greatest fear is dying whilst public speaking. So I'm going to try and not die up here. But more about that later. I think ultimately what I would like to convey is that I'm a human. And that what we're going to see in the future, we as humans will be impacted quite rapidly, and we have to cling to what it means to be human. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of who you are. I would like to just scan. I don't think that there are that many boomers, maybe some Gen X and millennials. Interesting thing is I'm in a micro generation, 1977 to 1985. Are there any exennials here? Maybe raise of a hand. Exennials? Yeah, we have a couple of exennials in the room. So we are very special. And the reason we're special is because we played with He-Man. Do you remember He-Man? Do you know what He-Man is? No? Okay, that's maybe in South Africa. I don't know. Anyway, Mario Brothers and all this kind of stuff. But the point is we are an analog childhood that developed into a digital adulthood. So as you can imagine, we were playing as kids, we were climbing trees in South Africa, running around, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And then you had Mario Brothers. I remember 14 years old. Was it Windows 3.1? I was 13 or 14 and computers started coming out. So you see, this is how in the adult world we became sort of more digital. And it has a significant impact on us. We're I think the only generation, this exennial, that would actually have that element in terms of our personality. So, talking about the future of a hotel guest. And not only a hotel guest, but a consumer in general. There are two elements that are absolutely critical. It is we, as a consumer, will be searching for hyper-convenience and hyper-personalization. This will be the predetermining factor in every one of the transactions going ahead. And this is something that we, as hoteliers, as DMCs, as travel agents, as retailers, have to take into consideration. If we talk about hyper-convenience, reflecting back to when I was a child, when my parents sent me to go and buy bread, I wasn't really spoiled for choice. There was white bread and brown bread. Sometimes not brown bread, just white bread, and we had to bring it back home. Today, we are so spoiled for choice. There are more types of bread than religions, or gods, if you wish. There's many, many, many different types of breads. And that's the thing, it's the same thing I remember as well as a kid. I had to save for a long period of time in order to buy a tape from either Michael Jackson or Dr. Alban or Shaggy or something like that. And this tape, I don't know, some of you don't know what a tape is. No, I think everybody knows what a tape is. I had to listen it over and over and over again until it broke. Or you'd be sitting in front of the radio and wait for your favorite song to come on so you can press record so you can record that song, and I see a lot of people smiling. And that's how you created the mixtape. So if you think about today, Spotify, so my children if you wish, they're never going to have to go through that. It's just a spoiled for choice, super hyper convenience, and that is exactly what the modern consumer is looking for, isn't that so? The second thing is the hyper personalization. So now if you talk about the hospitality industry again, this hyper personalization is what's going to set you apart, if you wish. I am going to touch on the following thing, which is called the Internet of Things a little bit. But just to explain to you before I get there, my talk is in two parts. The thing is about high tech, as you can imagine, about all the industry, what's going to happen in terms of technology, etc., etc. And the second thing is about hyper touch or high touch. So, in terms of the structure, let me explain it a little bit. Internet of Things, commoditization, how that impacts the traveler, the modern traveler, or the guest satisfaction, and also for those that are in the conferencing business, how it's going to impact your business. Yes. So, does anybody know what the Internet of Things is? Internet of Things, you've heard of it? Yeah, some people, I can get some nods. This is going to revolutionize the planet, or already is. To give you an idea, the exponential growth in terms of the Internet of Things in 2017, there were 8 billion devices connected globally. When I talk about 8 billion devices, that includes your cat, it includes the house lights, it includes your microwave oven, your cell phone, your whatever you call this thing, the wearables, etc. And the thing is that the Internet of Things is about different devices that are connected, and humans, and environments, and animals, etc. And each one of these devices, or whatever environments, has a small little beacon on it. And this beacon is what's absorbing data. And this data then is going to be used in order to define your preferences, give you recommendations, etc. So 2020, it jumps from 8 billion devices to 30 billion devices globally. And by 2025, you're going to have 179 billion devices connected globally in terms of IP addresses or these little beacons, just picking up data about you as a consumer, about humans. And the main thing is why the Internet of Things have become so popular is that, yes, it enhances efficiency. If you can imagine, you walk into your house is already automated. This is Johnny, he walks into his house, he says, you know, before he gets there, I want the air conditioning switched on, I want coffee being filtered, and he wants to walk and pop down on his couch and he wants to watch Netflix, right? All this automation. And this kind of preferences will be picked up and picked up and picked up, and that defines you as a human to a certain extent. So it makes you more efficient. In terms of energy efficiency, of course, you know, in terms of lights, when you put the heating on, when you put the heating off, etc., etc. So it just makes it from an ecological perspective, sustainability perspective, makes things better. And last but not least, it takes away human exertion. Because humans, by default, I wouldn't say are lazy, but if we could make it easier, why the hell not, right? So that's the Internet of Things. The biggest issue with that, of course, is data security. Everybody's freaking out. What kind of information is this Internet of Things collecting about me? I don't know, right? And that's the scary part. But we're going to get to that next. However, the biggest challenge for us as humanity right now, well, the biggest challenge for humanity, but for us as a consumer, is commoditization. Now, if you think about commoditization, everything is the same. Now, that's a bold statement. But when is the last time that you went to a restaurant where the service was really shit? Because in general terms, everybody is kind of getting it okay. The hotels are kind of all right. The F&B service is kind of all right. The quality of the food is kind of all right. Everybody is striving to do better, 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 better. Whereas in the past, you had not rapid, but crass differences in terms of the quality of service and the products and the commodities, etc. you're buying. Today is quite generalized. So now how do you, as a travel agent, as a hotelier, as a future entrepreneur, how do you stand aside? And the thing is that by using the IoT or the Internet of Things in order to define the preferences and the recommendations for your future customers, that's what's going to differentiate you. So imagine, you have all these UIDs, all these beacons, or the Internet of Things collecting information about you. It realizes that you as a family goes on a holiday every December to a warm destination because we live in Northern Europe, right? So if I'm using me as an example. I'm South African, I die in the winter here, so I want to go somewhere warm, where there's either a desert or wild animals or a beach or pina coladas, but generally, pina colada for me is enough. If there's a pina colada, then I know I'm where I should be in December. So what will happen is, through my mobile device, through my telephone, through my booking agency, through the travel agency that I used, Expedia, Booking.com, etc., all the history, basically all this information will be collected about me. And in future, what will happen is that your travel agent or whoever it is that's sitting out there will curate an experience for you based on your preferences and what you like. And it will come to you automatically. That's the future. Where to travel, when to travel, how to travel. For instance, I'm expecting, I've maybe, I don't know, you maybe have 20 kids. So you can't just fly to a destination, have a minibus and all this. So the logistics associated with this is massive, right? But through the Internet of Things, through data searching and analytics, you'd be able to tailor-make this. It's going to have an impact on the conferencing business as well, right? So today we're here at Convene, we're talking about the MICE business. So think about it. There are a lot of people out there that are sitting in international companies that have international, I don't know, associations. They have kind of a routine, a habit, how they go through it. Through the Internet of Things, through the accumulation of a lot of data, You as a DMC in future should set yourself up in such a way that you are able to communicate with this client, anticipating their needs. How many potential employees do they have? Where did they conference last year? How did they get there? What are the logistics? What are the hotels? What are the experiences that they're looking for? Now you would say, okay, data protection is a big issue in terms of that, right? But as life will, how can I say, evolve, the automation of ambient intelligence or artificial intelligence will support all of us in order to speak to our clients far better and tailor-make the experiences for them. Is that scary enough yet? It's going to get scarier. So what I want to do is I want to take you on a journey. I want to talk about some of the trends that's going to come to the hospitality industry in general. There's 4 or 5 of them. They're interesting. I've got some videos for you to watch. But the first one that I want to talk about is voice search. Yes? So voice search is going to be awesome, and it's going to redo everything that we thought was normal in terms of search engine optimization. Today we put Google keywords out there and all this kind of stuff. We put it out there. And this is how we're communicating to our customers, because people are going into sort of Google, they're searching for best hotel in Riga, best hotel in Vilnius, etc., etc., etc. But today, in terms of searches, 30% of all searches are done by voice. Did you know that? So think about this. Retail is one of the largest contributors to the global GDP, as you can imagine. It's roughly, I think it's between 30 and 35% of all income globally is through retail. Half of that, or 45% of that, is through e-commerce. Again, half of that is done through recommendations and through preferences and like direct marketing. But think about it. If half of global retail is done through e-commerce and 30% of that is done through voice, how many billions of euros is generated through voice searching? Think about it. Billions. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to try. Yeah? Can I try on my wearable? I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll see. Hey Siri. Stop talking.
I'm listening.
Hi Siri, are you connected to the Internet of Things?
Yes. The internet says, hello.
So, that proves it. And it's interesting. So with these wearables, and also when you're searching on Siri or Alexa, etc., think about how you in the future set up your websites. Because if you think about the keywords that we currently set up, it's about data search on the internet. Your keyword search should be set up as a question at the top of the website. Because you're going to have people driving in. So the guy drives into the city, he doesn't have accommodation, he doesn't know how to get to his hotel. He's going to do what I did. Right now, if I ask Siri, give me the best hotels in the area, it's going to search within a certain circumference. And I can tell you now, there's a bunch of people that are sitting in here that are looking after international hotels chains. Not one of you are on there. I know because I've checked. So now we, as hoteliers, we have to check. How do we enhance it? How do we get better in terms of making sure that the future customer can actually find us? So it's a big challenge, but I'm going to show you something about that. I hope the video works.
Expedia.
Welcome to Expedia. You have an upcoming trip to Las Vegas on November 29th. I can help you get details on your upcoming trip. Add a rental car or check your loyalty points. What can I do for you?
Get flight details.
You have an upcoming flight in 18 days. Your non-stop flight from San Francisco International to McCarran International departs at 9 a.m. on November 29th. You are flying Virgin America from Terminal 2. You are scheduled to land in Las Vegas at 10:30 a.m. local time on November 29th. Can I help you with anything else?
Yes, reserve a car.
Okay, I have economy, full size, luxury, standard SUV. Which type of car would you like?
Standard SUV.
I have 3 total prices for a standard SUV car. Starting with the cheapest option. Would you like to get a car from Fox for $106.26?
Yes.
Your total price including taxes and fees will be $106.26. Your standard SUV car will be ready for pickup at Las Vegas Airport on November 29th. Should I book this car for you now?
Yes.
You're all set. You would.
That's That's voice search, and it's pretty impressive as to how the technology. It's like you're having a conversation with Alexa, right? And so, as this technology develops, we as hoteliers, as DMCs, as travel agents, as larger corporations, what we have to do is we have to understand how we best optimize this retail opportunity. Clear. Next one, chatbots. Sorry, before I get that. So, has anybody had an experience with an AI chatbot before? Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, the ultimate thing is that the young people today don't want to talk to each other. They really don't want to talk to each other. God forbid they call each other. Like I had an experience recently where I had to call somebody. He works for, I'm not going to say which company, and I couldn't get hold of the guy. And he's like, he was freaking out. He was 25 years old. And here's somebody actually calling him with a business inquiry. That just doesn't happen today. Today's day and age, you have to set an appointment. You have to send the guy a text. You have to send him a smoke signal. And hopefully he responds in order before you can actually call him. This is how business is conducted today, right? So the beauty of AI chatbots in terms of your booking engines, in terms of how you make it easier for people to make bookings, etc., 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 is obviously it's happening, it's working. Ask yourself the question, have you managed to implement it in your booking engine? Because if I think about Hilton, if I think about Radisson, if I think about Marriott, and if I think about Accor, I've dealt with all these companies, none of them have, right? So how quickly are we adapting as a hospitality industry to what the needs are of our future customers? I'll just show you a little bit.
1, 2, 3, 4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing 5, 10, gonna do it right and do it big, yeah, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a way to follow. And if you do, yeah.
So in that example, obviously it revolutionizes how you actually book a room and sitting in an airport or sitting at home or sitting in your car while somebody's driving you a taxi. It's really easy. The next one is the one which I'm really, 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 really excited about, and that's augmented reality. And I've been speaking about augmented reality to a lot of my friends, and they always also freak out. They're like, what? Really? What is that? You know, augmented reality, I think everybody remembers with Pokemon. I know Gestutis used Pokemon Go, and he was running around Vilnius trying to find these little Pokemons. I know that. I saw that, yeah, so Pokemon is a perfect example of augmented reality, where people were running around this country crazy, or this continent, or whatever, the world. In addition to that, one of my favorite augmented reality sort of technologies, just for those who don't know what augmented reality is where the digital and the actual physical world meet. So in other words, you have your telephone screen, and you can walk around, and you can see different elements of that, right? So augmented reality, for me, my favorite one is about the stars. There's I can't remember what it's called, Starlight or Star View or whatever. So anywhere where you're standing, you can see where the different constellations are. Now you can imagine, so this is the beginning of the technology. It's just going to get better. What's happening is that companies are developing technology in terms of augmented reality, which is taking it from your phone and bringing it to your eyes. So you can imagine how technology has evolved. First television screens over there, then in front of you, then the computer, now the handheld. And the next step is everybody's going to walk around with glasses, so I'm not going to feel out. Everybody will still have hair. I'm not going to be able to fix that, but in terms of the glasses, I'll fit. So the point is, with the augmented reality, you'd be able to walk into Maxima or into Rimi with your augmented reality glasses in China, yeah? There's no Rimi in China yet, but maybe. And you'd be able to look at an aubergine, the most beautiful, I don't know, vegetable on the planet. Nobody knows what to do with it. You look at the aubergine, and the price will pop up on your glasses. You'll be able to see that, number one. Secondly, there'll be a recommendation on what to combine the aubergine with somewhere in the store. It will tell you the aisle, where to go, what the menu items are, and which aisle to take, which is quickest in order for you to pay and get out of the store. Right now, in America, some of the stores like Walmart's and Walgreens, what they have is their stores are actually all connected in terms of IoT, this Internet of Things. So there's a living environment. So they're actually tracking how customers are going through the store and buying, and they're going to apply this technology to augmented reality, which makes it easier for the customer to buy. you think I'm talking, this is space age, right? It's happening right now. 2 years from now, you're going to be able to do that. They've spent $16 billion on developing this technology, and they're spending more every year. So, what will happen in hospitality? So, I'd like to show you.
Hello, Eleanor. I hope you will enjoy your hotel concept trial this weekend. Remember to turn in your assignment by next Monday. EHL's hospitality partners are counting on your feedback before going to market.
So that seems pretty extreme, I guess, in terms of what's going to happen in the future. I would just like to share with you, yesterday I was in Frankfurt, and I was in a room, a concept room that's being done by Marriott, and 80% of what you see there is actually under development right now. So some of their future rooms are going to look exactly like this. And so we're negotiating with them how much of that we can actually apply in the rooms right now. But the point is you're going to be able to have virtual discussions with people. Everything will be charged remotely. The whole room is going to be connected with your phone. You'll be able to set exactly each one of the settings prior to even entering the room. You'll be geo-fenced. Do you know what geo-fencing means? Does anybody know what that means? So geo-fencing is, with your phone, your mobile device, it can actually geolocate you, and there's a geo-fence around you. So literally, now mobile key or the keyless sort of thing works, but with the geo-fencing, you'd be literally be able to walk into the hotel without having to register, without having to pick up a key, without having to speak to anybody. The phone would be your geo-fence, and you walk straight into your room. Done. And walk out and pay. Done. Geo-fencing, this is what's happening. This future of hospitality and what Marriott and these guys are looking at. So the next trend and the last one I want to talk about is something that I'm really passionate about, and that's sustainability, right? So for those that know me, I'm into bees. I've had bees on roofs in several hotels in Riga. There was also a bee storm last summer, right? Do you know about the bees? No? There's big drama. We had bees all over Riga, yeah? So they started moving to the central market, to the restaurants. The thing is, these bees were not wearing Yes I Can pins, so nobody can prove that it was mine. Yeah, so I just want to put that out there. But anyway, so the future of hospitality is all about sustainability. You've seen it, Marriott and Hilton. What they've done now is they've declared the single-use plastics are out. So I had a discussion with one of the guys this week, and so those little pump actions are coming back. Unfortunately, it takes a while, but the little single-use plastics are out. The straws are out. In terms of the chemicals that we use, it's very, 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 very important that we use the right chemicals. To give an example, that currently hospitality industry alone, and I'm not talking about aviation and travel, is contributing 5% to global greenhouse gases, right? So we have a big role to play, and our customers expect that from us. They expect from us to be more green, to be sustainable, to have chickens that run around free, you know, if not be a game changer and be completely vegan. This is a new movement. I haven't spoken about that. But the images that you're seeing right now, how do I do this? Yeah, these images are actually brand documentation from Marriott. So if you get a development document for Marriott right now and you're going to develop a Marriott or a JW Marriott, this is what they're putting in their design guides: urban farming, sustainability in the hotels. So when we negotiate with customers or future hotel owners now, they have to think about these things. And so I was recently in a hotel, I will not talk where I was, but the point is that these guys are actually going to put an urban farm in their hotel. Because you can imagine what the potential is of this. We have in hotels large open walls and spaces and meeting rooms, and we are killing the planet by buying things in when we can actually grow our own things in our own hotels. A lot of it, at least, you know. So that's the future, and a future trend. The other thing I want to talk about in terms of sustainability is food waste, right? So we're running programs right now where we are reducing food waste. If you can put it in perspective, that the average hotel, I don't want to lie, is roughly 40,000 kilograms of food is wasted in a sort of 200, 250 bedroom hotel. Think about it. 40,000 kilograms of food that's thrown away. Now this food is from offcuts, it's from wastage, it's from people that are being careless, that are loading the plates in the canteen and all this kind of stuff. So what we're doing in our hotels, we're pushing really to reduce this food waste footprint in order to become more sustainable. And if you think about it, even at home, each kilogram of food that you waste is nearly €3 in value. So if you think in your household, if you're smarter in terms of your food waste, how much you could save or potentially reduce and in terms of your footprint. And the last one I want to talk about, of course, is it's not the proverbial F word, but it's the proverbial A word, which in our case is Airbnb. So I'm going to show you something about Airbnb.
It's all about realizing that in the end we're not so different from each other.
Everything is just beautiful.
The main thing I love about hosting is
the magic of traveling.
Homes, experiences, and places together, all in one place.
So we can accept that the future traveler, they're looking for experiences. They're looking for something that's curated. They're looking for something that's hyper-personalized, hyper-convenient to do. And thus, as hospitality industry and also the travel industry, we have to become more adaptive and much smarter to tap into this market. I mean, these guys started a business in San Francisco with one bed, right? And they did it a couple of years ago. I would highly encourage you to go and listen to their story. On a podcast, which is How I Built This, go listen to it. There's a bunch of things in there about these guys and other things, but it's just fascinating how they've completely disrupted the hospitality industry. The same with Uber, or the same with Taxify. Now you've got Uber Eats. If you can imagine that Uber Eats will be linked to the Internet of Things. So your Thursday pizza binge that you have, and I know you have it, pizza and beer, I know you do that on Thursdays. Okay, sushi and white wine, who knows? But anyway, the point is, it'll be able to predict it, and the same with accommodation systems, etc., etc. So with that in mind, that's the trends from a tech perspective. Let's talk a little bit about the next part, which is the high touch. Okay, so now this is the humanity. So now you can see with all of this, a lot of the thinking, a lot of the human exertion is being taken out, especially within the hospitality industry. So I'm going to scare you just a little bit, and I hope that you understand that this is an optimistic perspective on life, at least from my perspective. Currently, as I mentioned, everything is moving closer. And I was specifically told not to say this, but I'm going to say that. It's getting closer. It went from a cinema screen in the 50s to a television in the 60s, to computers in the 80s, to the handheld devices now in the 21st century, etc. Now you're going to augmented reality, and in essence, everything is getting closer and closer and closer and closer. I'm not sure if you know this, but there's a lot of tests being done at the moment in terms of a microchip which is actually going to be implanted in the neocortex of humans in the not too distant future. They've run the trials and it's been successful. So effectively what that means, within the next 20 to 25 years, we would in essence be able to connect to the internet, and we would be our own little Internet of Things. So now you can imagine, as a human having this connection to the internet, you will have all information at your disposal at any given time. Accountants will be something of the past. Sorry if there's any accountants here. Lawyers will be something of the past. Sorry if there's any lawyers here. The other thing that will be under stress, of course, is the medical world, because your heart, your pacemaker, everything will be connected. EKG, now I can ask Siri, what's my heart rate? And I can see. So if I have a heart condition, she can warn me, especially if my heart rate drops below a certain point or goes elevated, etc. So this is quite scary, but then what is going to happen to the humanity, and how is it going to be impact on the hospitality industry? And this is a really, really interesting thing. This is what's going to set you apart and your business apart from what the trends are and what you potentially will focus in your life. It is empathy. It's the ability to really care for each other. It is the compassion, showing kindness and willingness to look after a neighbor, somebody in the street, etc. And last but not least, is just genuine care, wholehearted caring. That is the thing that will define us as humanity. In addition to that is our ability to create music, art, cultural, etc., etc. So, the left brain, which is more analytical, will potentially be connected to some neocortex, some microchip, but your right brain is where we are going to be defined in terms of spirituality, etc. Now, I know a lot of people are looking at me like, this is quite shocking, right? I want to say something, which might be, but anyway. In the 1950s, there was a massive shift in terms of the humanity. Because prior to that, and I read this recently in an interesting book by a guy called Ryan Holiday. It's called Ego is the Enemy. I highly recommend you read it. The point is, what he stipulates there is that in the 1950s, up until then, we were still a community. We were still a society where we cared after each other. And subsequent to the 1950s, what happened is people became more inward thinking, more independent. And what you had is you had all these hippies go and do LSD, and they went on a trip, and they were all high, and it's all great, and it's all spiritual, etc., etc. And we as a humanity kind of moved independently, driven by ego, driven by our own drive to succeed, etc. Whereas before, it was all about the community. If one guy suffered here, what can I do to help him? And that's one of the biggest risks for us as humanity, and I think we have to think hard. If this tech is coming, how do we still stay human? How do we still stay part of the community? And this is how we have to start thinking, and also within our businesses, how we inspire our people to be compassionate, to be full of empathy, and to be full of genuine care. That's the core part of my message. But the last thing I want to leave you with is just something to think about. And this is my hypothesis, this is my philosophy to a certain extent, and this is what I predict the new business model of the planet will be. And it incorporates everything. It incorporates what's going to happen in terms of us as organizations. How do we become deliberately developmental in terms of our training our staff to be, full of empathy and care, etc. How do we teach them to deal and to adapt and to be more adaptive in terms of technology that's coming our way? Basically what I'm saying is that the old business model was all about supply and demand. And this is the core message I want to leave you with, something to think about. The future business model will not be that. The future business model will be curate, match, and facilitate. And I talk again about Spotify, and I talk about Uber Eats, and I talk about Airbnb, etc. They curate something. So in other words, they have a database of music, they make it really accessible. They learn from you through your preferences, through what you search for, they curate it. And last but not least, they facilitate it through a very simple system. You pay $5 a month. It's seamless through your bank account. You don't even think about it. This is the future of business. And you have to question yourself in the hospitality industry in general, travel agents, DMCs, hospitality people, how do you get these people into your front door? And this is the new business model as far as I'm concerned. So I hope I gave you something to think about. It was a pleasure to speak to you. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.